For those of you who have been following my project management series in Power Apps, I'll show you how to create a nice home screen that summarizes completed, upcoming, and overdue tasks, recently modified tasks and projects, and as a bonus at the end, I'll show you how to visualize task completion using a bar chart. If you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, I do recommend you checking those out, but even if you haven't, you should still be able to follow along in the video. So let's just dive right in. So the first thing I want to do in this page is add a welcome message. So maybe with the date and like a welcome or hello and the user's name, it'll change dynamically. So what we can do is insert a container, and we can do a vertical container, and we can adjust some of its settings here. Minimum width, we can keep that at 0. Flexible height, we're going to turn off, and I'm going to set it to 100. And so next up, I'm going to add a text label. And for its text property, we're going to make this into a date. And with this date, I'm going to set it into a text so I can format it. And we're going to use today. That function just gives us today's date. And then we're going to format it inside of these double quotes. What I want to do is just put DDD, which is going to give us the actual weekday, comma, and then I'm going to do month. So 4Ms is going to give us the full month name. And then comma, I'll do DD for the date. So that should be good. I think, yeah, I don't need to specify the year. Hopefully the users know what year it is. But yeah, day, month, and day. And I'm going to change the font. I'm going to do Lato Black, and we can keep it at 13. That's fine. And then maybe we can change the color of the font, maybe to this lighter gray. That's fine. And we're going to also want to make sure we set it to stretch with a minimum width of 0. And for height, we can just turn on flexible height, and with a minimum height of 0. And we're going to just add in, I can actually just copy this label, and I'm going to paste it back in. And we're going to add our welcome message down here. And so we're going to edit this text. We're going to delete that. And I'm going to do the $, and then double quotes, and inside we're gonna add some text here, and we're gonna just say welcome, comma, space, and then inside squiggly brackets we can put in our function, which is going to be our current user dot given name. So right now it says Adele. I think I hard-coded myself to be Adele on our start screen. So I'm gonna just change this back to myself. There we go. So I am myself in this example. So welcome, comma, Nikolai. And again, the current user we've defined using our Office 365 users connector. For this label though, I don't want it to be that dark gray. I'm gonna make it black. So that should stand out a bit more. And now what we can do for this container that we created for this, we can set some padding. So we're gonna do top 20, 20 at the bottom, 20 on the left, 20 on the right, and that should create some separation and bring those two closer together, which looks a lot nicer. The next thing I want to do when we're creating this dashboard, we can do some pill sort of infographics here, basically just saying how many tasks we've completed maybe in the last 30 days, any tasks that have an upcoming due date within the next 7 days, and maybe some overdue items as well. So let's go ahead and create another container to house all of this. And I'm going to make it a horizontal container. I'm going to change the align vertical to the center. I'm going to give it a 10 gap. And what's really important about this one, in order for it to be dynamic as the screen adjusts from mobile to the web browser, we want the wrap to be on. And this will come into play as we start building the pills. And the minimum width, I'm going to set to 0. We're going to leave it at stretch. The height though, we will turn off. I'm going to keep it at 200 for now, but we will come back and make this dynamic later on. I'm going to take the border radius, set it to 0, and drop shadow we'll keep at none. And now that we have that done, we're going to insert another container, and it's going to be a vertical container, and we're going to change its flexible width, and we're going to turn that off. The width, I'll set it to 200 maybe. Yeah, let's do 200 for now. We're going to add some padding, maybe just 10 all around. On the alignment container, we're going to set it to center, and the height I'm going to set to 100. And for the border radius, maybe let's set it to 5, drop shadow, maybe a semi-light. And I'm also going to set the color to white, but really it's not going to stand out much right now. What I can do is go back to this container number 9, and we're going to change the color maybe to a light gray so that everything pops. Although what we can do with this one is change this to white. I'm going to go back to my component, our top header, and in the root container, I'm going to make sure I change this to white so it's not transparent. And if we go back to our screen, there you go. And this actually we're going to also make white. Perfect. So this will look a lot better as we start to build out these things, and they'll pop from the page. So you'll see what I mean as we start to build them a little more in depth here. But what I want to do in this container, you'll see I don't want it to be stuck to the very left here. So I'm going to add 20 padding to both the left and right. I'm going to leave the top and bottom as 0. And so now we can just start to build this out. We can insert a text label. And I'm going to make this Lato black. We'll keep it at size 13. I'm just going to title this completed. And I'm going to change the color of this to that darker gray. And for height, I'm just going to set it to 25. Or actually, we could even just do auto height. Yeah, let's do auto height. And for the width, I'm going to set it to stretch with a minimum width of 0. And that should be pretty good. Now the next label I want to do is add a little context, because I want to give the completed items, but I also don't want to do all the completed items. So we'll add a text that just says in the last 30 days. And of course, we're going to make this a little bit smaller. So Lato, let's make this a size 8. And I'm going to turn on auto height as well. And what I'll do with this one, actually, the completed one, because there's too much of a gap between the two, I'm going to remove the bottom padding and set that to 0. And for the last 30 days, I'm going to remove the top padding, set that to 0. That's going to bring them a lot closer together. So that's looking a lot better. And for the last label, this is what's actually going to display the count and some of our tasks. I'm going to do a label again. And this one, I'm going to set to Lato black. We'll leave it at size 13. I think, well, actually, maybe let's make it 16, make it a bit bigger. And we're going to set the alignment to stretch. And again, minimum width at 0. And flexible height, I'll turn on. And minimum height, I'll set to 0. So that's just going to take up all the rest of the space in our little section here. Now, let's just hard code this as maybe 5. So that's what it looks like. We're going to go back and actually edit these text fields, but first I just want to create all of the rest of them, and then we'll go back and actually update these formulas. So what we can do now, because we've created this already, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste a couple times, maybe 3. Yeah, we'll have 3 total. So the other one that we want to do is upcoming. So anything that's going to be coming in the next 7 days. Okay, and then the completed, we're going to change this one to overdue. And this one will just be anything that's overdue, regardless of how many days. So we'll just set it to all time. So this is looking pretty good. Now, if we preview this app, that looks fine. But if we go to the mobile version, let's say iPhone X, you'll see it's doing the wrap, but it's not adjusting the height of that container. It's still staying at 200. So the way we can do this dynamically, we can look at adjusting the height of our container here that has all of them. A little trick, if you take that last item, right? So the last item is container 49 underscore 2. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go to our main container and I'm going to set the height property to that container dot y plus that same container dot height. So this is going to adjust it automatically, and B, you can see it's now stretching that container, so it's fitting everything together, but of course it's not adding any padding at the top and bottom. So what we want to do is just go back and maybe add 10. That should be enough. So now we can see it's doing an automatic adjustment. If we go to the horizontal view, you can see that that's all wrapping up nicely and showing the correct height. Now, if we want to get even more fancy with it, you can see how on the phone version, it's not stretching all the way out to the edge. What I want to do is actually fit two of these on one row, and then if there's more than that, they'll overflow. So two on each row. So the way we can do this is we can do a custom width for this container and then mimic the same width for all the other ones. So instead of just hard coding it as 200, I'll do a switch function, and we're going to base it off of the screen. So we're on the home screen. So we're going to do home dot size. And if the home size is 1, which resembles the mobile screen, then I want in bracket, let's do parent dot width minus the padding that we have. So it's 20 on the left, 20 on the right. So I'm just going to put it as 40. But also we have to account for the space in between the two items, which is 10. So we could just set it to 50. So parent dot width minus 50. And we're going to divide all of this by 2 because we're going to fit 2 of these on one row. And if we just adjust this here, so if home size is 1, then this. If home size is 2, we're going to set it to the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this. And if it's anything else, I'm going to say 200. Right? So if it's on the desktop view, it's going to be 200. If it's 1 or 2, it's going to be splitting between the two of them. So now if we preview, we can see this is now taking up half the width, but of course it's not applied to the other ones. So let's go ahead and instead of writing that formula 3 times or however many pills that you have, we can just take this container 49 and just reference its width on all of the rest of them. So this will be instead of 200, container 49 dot width. I'll just copy this and I'm going to paste it into this other one as well. And so now if we preview, there you go. They're nicely compacted together, and there's always going to be enough space, and it's going to be fully dynamic. And so that's sort of it for our pill section. And as I mentioned, we will come back to the actual formula and values here. But at first, I want to set up the whole format, and then we'll come back to that. So within this main container again, I want to insert another version of this container. I'm just going to go ahead and insert a horizontal container. We're going to turn off the flexible height. Well, actually, no, we'll keep the height. We'll keep the flexible height on for now. Minimum height 0. Stretch width is good. Minimum width 0. I'm going to align vertical in the center, and I'm going to add a gap of 10. So very similar to how that we did for the top one. I'm going to remove the border radius and remove the drop shadow. I'm also going to add left and right padding of 20. So for this one, I'm going to create another sort of container, but what I want to do is just show any recent tasks. So anything that's been modified, maybe show the last 5. So yeah, anything that's been modified, and then also show the recent projects that have been modified. And then maybe we'll do a bar chart or something at the very bottom to show like how many tasks have been completed. But for now, let's do the tasks, and let's do, of course, we're going to insert another container, and it's going to be a vertical container. And I'm going to turn off the flexible width. I'm just going to set it to, 500 is fine for now. The height as well, I'm going to change. I'm going to turn to the top here, and I'm going to hard code it right now just as 300. And the gap, maybe we'll increase that to 20, and wrap we'll keep off, and I'm just going to add a bunch of padding. So let's do 20 on each end, and I'm going to border radius, let's make this 5, and then semi-light, and of course the color to make it pop, we'll make it white. So that's going to house our container and some of our tasks. So first, we also want to do a header. So we're gonna add another container. This time it's going to be let's do a horizontal one. We're gonna turn off the flexible height. We'll set this to 30. So it's gonna be just sitting at the top there. Border radius 0, drop shadow none, and that should be good. So now we can insert a text label, and I'm gonna align a container stretch with a minimum height of 0. Flexible width I will turn on with a minimum of 0. I will turn wrap off, and I'm gonna change this to my Lato black. We'll keep it at 13, and we're gonna just add this dark gray color. And I'm gonna change this to my recent tasks. And then what I also want to do is add a view all button, right? Because here we're just only going to show some recent, maybe the top 5. But if we wanted the users to click and just see all of their tasks again, this will be a nice feature to have. So we can go back to one of our, maybe the My Tasks page that we've created already. I'm just going to take this button because I like the styling of it already. So I can just copy this and we'll go back to our home page, back on our container here, and we're going to paste this in. I will change the height to stretch with a minimum of 0. And the width, I'm going to just make it a little bit less to 80. And I will make it align to the right. We could even go smaller actually. So maybe 60. Yeah. Now, of course, we don't want to say filter. So we're going to say view all. And in the advanced on select property, we're just going to navigate to our My Tasks page, and that should be good. And see, okay, I made it too narrow, so maybe 80 was good. Yeah, 80 is good. So yeah, if they click view all, they'll just be taken to the My Tasks page. So we'll go back to the home, and that's the header. So that's perfect. I'm also just gonna duplicate this. I'll do Control C, select our container, Control V, and this one we're gonna say My Recent Projects. And for the View All button, instead of My Tasks, we're gonna navigate to My Projects. There we go. We did do a video on our tabs here. We did a grid view for our tasks, and we have this table, so we can just utilize some of it and we'll just transform some of the fields. So I'm just going to copy this gallery, and I'm going to go back into our home, select this container, and right there, and we're going to paste this in. But of course, we're not going to be using all of these pieces, so I'm just going to expand the gallery, and within this container, I'm just going to delete basically all these fields except the check mark and the title. So I'm just going to delete everything up until that point. Perfect. And I'm going to change the width. So I don't want, I guess it is parent.width. I'm going to change the width of the gallery, which is, let's see, what did we put it? Minimum 1,100. I'm just going to set this to 0. Yeah, there you go. So this is good. I do also, I kind of changed my mind a little bit on the streak across completed tasks. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of it, so I'm just going to go here and update this strike through. I'm just going to set it to false. So yeah, I don't want the strike through, although I do want to change the color. So the color, I'm going to set if this item dot status dot value equals completed. I want it to be my theme dot gray, otherwise this black color. So that looks a bit better. Now I don't want all the tasks, right? So we're gonna change some of this, and we're also not gonna have all these filters. So really I'm just gonna have tasks. I'm not gonna add columns. The sort column is going to be our modified date, and it's just going to be in descending order. So really simplifying the formula here. The filter, I will come back to this in a bit. For now, it's just going to be our list, and we're sorting by columns. I guess, yeah, we can do the format. So very simple formula for now. We're just sorting by modified date in descending order. And I also want to do the top 5. So I'm going to do first n, and I'm just going to say 5, close the bracket, format the text. There we go. So we're only getting the first 5 tasks that have been recently modified. You can see it is still scrolling because the height is not dynamic. What we can do for the gallery is change its template size. So the template size, we can do some funky business here. And I'm going to do self.height divided by self.allItemsCount. And this will now automatically make it so it all fits into the same, it all fits into that height of the overall gallery height. However, one thing with Power Apps, whenever you're dividing by sort of like a dynamic number, like counting the gallery items, sometimes in the beginning those haven't loaded, it counts as 0, so it's giving you an error because it's dividing by 0. That's not allowed. So usually there's like an annoying pop-up message that comes up. So the way to avoid this is just wrapping this in if error. So if it's an error, just do blank. And so this will now, still do its thing, and you're not going to get that pop-up message that gives you that there's some sort of error by dividing by 0. And so this is really good. So what we can do, I like the gallery, so I'm just going to copy it, and we're going to select the projects container, and I'm going to paste this in right in there. And we're going to change a few things. Of course, we don't want to see the tasks in this column. We want to see projects. So I'm just going to change the table there, again, the first 5. And I'm also going to just double check anything here. On the checkbox, there is some things happening. So I'm going to just make sure on check, we update this. So instead of patching tasks, I'm going to replace these with projects. So that's good. And on uncheck as well, I'm going to change this formula to projects. Perfect. Now I don't see on here, something's wrong. Maybe on the paste, let's make sure this button here. Okay, that sometimes does happen. If the height changed to 1, we don't want that. We want the height to be parent.height. There we go. And on this button on select, we want to make sure that we change this as well. I'm not changing the var task. I'm going to change var project. And I'm looking up the project where the ID equals this item ID. And then we're going to navigate to the project form screen. And that should be good as well. So now if we click on the recent task, it's going to go into the task. If we go into the project, it's going to take us to that project view. Okay, so now if we click preview here, of course, yeah, these up here are dynamic, but this is not because we haven't actually set any of those settings. So what we can do, we'll set the initial setting on the first container here, and we're going to change its width property to a special formula. And we're going to do if home, which is our screen, dot size is greater than 2, then I want the in bracket here parent dot width minus 50 divided by 2. We can close the bracket. And again, the 50 is because we have 20 padding on here. We have 20 padding on the right, which is 40. And then we have a 10 pixel gap in between the two items. So we're going to do 50. And then we're going to divide that by 2 because we want to take only half of the real estate. The other half will be going to the project. Now, if it's less than 2, meaning it's going to be 1, which is for a mobile device, we're going to make this so it's just parent.width minus 40. And we're going to close the bracket. Oh, and sorry, yeah, not a bracket here. There we go. And it's parent.width minus 40 because when it's just one item on the screen, there's not going to be a gap, an additional 10. So we're just counting for the padding on the left and right, which equals 40. And so now for the rest of these here, so the recent projects, I'm going to click that container. And instead of copying that exact formula, I'll just reference that other container, which again, let me get the name of it, container 51. So I'm going to reference container 51.width. There we go. So now if we hit the play button, it is doing the appropriate widths. However, it's not pushing this project on the very bottom. It's not pushing that one to the bottom. So what we want to do on this container that has the recent tasks and recent projects, I do want to turn wrap on. Okay, so that's what we failed to do that. So yeah, wrap on, and we're going to dynamically change its height. So, and it's going to be based on the last container here. So container 51 underscore 1. So we're going to just copy that, and I'm going to go into the turn off flexible height. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to change the height to that container dot y plus that same container dot height. Oh, in this container, that's why I was cutting off the view all. The container 52, I'm just going to change the minimum width to 0 so that at least it doesn't cut off that button. So it's doing everything. It looks like it's pushing the projects below here, but we can't scroll. So what we need to do is update the scrolling feature. So what we actually need to do, because we don't want to take the top header, we want to keep the top header, fixed at the very top, regardless of how much we scroll. So we actually need to take this, everything underneath. So everything that we've built, we need to put it inside of another container. So we've already built it out nicely. So I'm just gonna go select all of them and cut them. And within this container, I'm gonna insert another container, and it will be a vertical one. I'm gonna align stretch. There's gonna be no gap. And the key here, vertical overflow, I'm gonna turn it on to scroll. And everything else should be fine. Flexible height will be on, but minimum 0, minimum width 0, and border radius 0, and drop shadow none. And so now with that done, I'm just gonna select that container and paste all of our other items that we cut away. And so now when we hit the play button, you'll see we get that scrolling ability. And if we go down, we see all our tasks, and we also see our recent projects. But you see, it's not giving us some padding at the bottom. So what we want to do with this container here that houses the recent tasks and projects, I want to change the height and add 10 padding, which should allow us to do this. Also on this container, I think I forgot to remove the minimum width. So make sure it's 0. So if we preview this now, you'll see there we have a nice gap, so it's not so glued to the very end. So this is all good, nice, functional, and dynamic. So let's maybe just check it on how it would look on the iPads. So you see it's having 2 and then just overflows on the bottom, and it's looking really good. But I do notice there's no hover here. So again, let's go back into this button here. So you see, it changed the height. For some reason, when you copy and paste, it doesn't always paste exactly as you intend. So I'm just going to do parent.height. And now, there you go. The hover and button is going to be working on that. Now, of course, we need to do some adjustments, right? With the formulas, I'll show you how to do the completed, upcoming, overdue. And we're referencing my recent tasks, but we're not actually filtering for anything that I'm assigned. We're just filtering for all tasks. So we're going to have to make some adjustment to our model because I want to avoid issues with delegation when it comes to identifying certain users' tasks and projects. The way we've set this up right now, we have a multi-select column for the assigned to, so there could be multiple people assigned. However, that doesn't work when you're trying to do specific filtering for a particular user who is attached to a task. There are methods to do this, but I wouldn't recommend it because you're gonna run into delegation issues. So what I've gone ahead and created here is an assignee column, which is a single person column. I'm just gonna see edit here. Yeah, it's just a person column and we're not allowing multiple selections. So it's just a single person and we can sort of consider these people here as collaborators or something, but you'll only be able to filter first items that you're assigned to individually. And I also added a column completed on, and if you see here, so it's a date column. We're not including time at this point, but yeah, it's just the date column and we're going to capture when it actually is completed. And I've done the same for projects as well. So projects, I've added an assignee table, or I've added an assignee column and a completed on column. So if we go back, now we can do some filters here. So our tasks, we're just showing all tasks, but I want to know only tasks that are assigned to me. So I'm just going to add a filter function in front, move this ahead. And what am I filtering? I'm going to filter the assignee dot email equals current user dot mail. So this is now filtering only for items or tasks that I'm assigned to. And you can see there's no delegation warnings. And so I'm going to do the same for projects. So we're just going to do filter. I'm going to tab over the projects and we're going to do assignee dot email equals current user dot mail. There we go. So now it's truly my tasks and my projects. Now for the completed, so let's go ahead and look at this one. So instead of hard coding S5, we're going to do a filter, and we're going to filter the tasks. And again, we're assignee dot email equals current user dot mail. And I'm going to make sure the status dot value equals completed. And I wanted the completed on field to be greater than or equaling, and we're going to do a date add. So I want to do the last 30 days. Let me just make this a little bigger. I want to do the last 30 days from today's date. So we're going to do today, and I'm going to do minus 30, and the time unit will be days. And we're going to close the brackets all the way to the end. Now it's giving us an error because it's expecting a text value, not a table value, which is what the filter is going to give us. So what I want to do is now count rows that this function returns. There we go. And maybe format the text. And this works, right? So you'll see I have 3 completed tasks in the last 30 days. So I have validated this and it is correct. But so the thing though is it does have a delegation warning because count rows is not delegable. But in this case, it's fine because I don't expect a particular assignee to have more than 500 tasks completed in a particular month or in the last 30 days. So this shouldn't be an issue. But of course, if you expect that one person might have more than 500 completed, then it's only going to return the first 500. And you can change this number, the 500 that I'm referring to, in the data row limit here. By default, it's 500. It can go up to a maximum of 2,000, but 500 is usually good enough in most cases. So while this function is not delegable, this function inside of the count rows is, which means I have no concerns. Now for upcoming, that's going to be a different formula. And this one, we want to see tasks that are upcoming in the next 7 days. So what we want to do is, and I'll put the count rows at the very end, but let's do a filter on tasks and assignee dot email equals current user dot mail. And I could do status dot value does not equal completed. But if I close this off, well, actually, let's do a count rows as well. So if I do a count rows as well, you'll see now the delegation issue is not with the count rows, it's with the does not equal. So we can't do a does not equal. We have to define equal, and then now the delegation issue is with the count rows as opposed to filtering on the status value. So because of this, I'll make sure the status value equals not completed, all the other statuses, which are to do. I'm gonna also do the other status is in progress, or the other status is ready for QA. And of course, the other filter that I want, and maybe I'll just format this so it's a bit easier. The other filter that I want to do here is around the date. So the due date. I want the due date to be greater than or equaling today. And I want the due date to be less than or equal to date add today 7 time unit in days. So this is now going to filter anything between today's date and 7 days from now. And if we scroll this up, you'll see that now that's dynamic and correct. It is 2, and I have validated that using the data. And again, count rows is not delegable, but this function inside of it is. So that's why I don't expect there to be more than 500 tasks for one employee for a particular person in the next 7 days, right? So that's why I'm okay with this delegation warning. And the last one is overdue. It's actually going to use a similar logic to the upcoming 7 days. So I'm just going to paste that in here and just make some adjustments. So again, I do want it to be the current user. I want the status to be any one of these, that it basically anything not complete. And the only thing that I'm going to change is the due date has to be less than, or it just has to be less than today, really. Yeah, so I can delete this, close the bracket here. Or actually, yeah, it's a bit more simple one. Due date less than today. And there's one of those. And so there we go. This is how it looks. And it's fully dynamic and actually doing the counts. Now, in order to set this up, so of course the completed on dates need to be updated, right? So right now I haven't built this into the app, but let's say for this check mark, and if we go to the on check, it's patching just the value to completed of this for the status, but I also want to patch the another value, which is the completed on, and I want that to be today. So if we click this, so the subscribe task, if we click this and now it's marked as complete, if we go to SharePoint in the tasks and we can see the subscribe completed and April 5th, right? So yeah, there you go. So it's and if we uncheck it, it'll remove and, oh, actually, yes, on uncheck, I want to update that completed on date to blank. So actually, yeah, so I'll just click it again, make sure it's marked as completed, and then I'll unclick it. And if we go back here, refresh, there you go. It's blank now. And the status goes back to do. And so we'll do the same for the other projects. So right here on check, I'm gonna throw in that completed on, or actually, no. So instead of blank on the completed on, it'll be today. And the on uncheck, I'm gonna put in completed on blank. So if we do this again, so customer feedback initiative. So if we select and go to projects, that's this one here. You can see the completed on April 5th. If we uncheck it, there we go, and refresh this again, it's gone. So no longer completed. So yeah, that all works. Another thing that we want to do is make sure that we have this functionality in the form itself, right? So right now, the only way we can change status is if we click it through the dropdown. But this, in this case, doesn't really update that date, right? So if we say completed and I save, it's only going to update this. We haven't told it to update the date. So in order to control maybe the completion, I can maybe just I'll copy this button and I'll just put it right here in the middle. Of course, move it sort of in the middle there. And honestly, this isn't ideal, but it should be okay. I'm gonna make the width maybe like a 120. The text, instead of just save, I'm gonna change it to this. So if this current task's value is equal to completed, then I want the button to say completed, otherwise mark complete. I'll just maybe go back here, this one. Yeah, so currently it's to do, so it's saying mark complete, that's what we want. The functionality though, of course, on select, we're gonna change that up a bit, and we're gonna do a set. We're gonna set the variable var task to this formula here, which is a patch, and we're gonna patch the tasks list, and it's gonna be var task. That's what we're gonna update. In squiggly brackets, I'm going to do the status, right? So the status will be, because it's a record, we're gonna put another squiggly bracket. The value will equal an if statement, right? So depending on if var task.status.value equals completed, then it's going to, I'm just gonna set it to do. That's all right. So I'm gonna move it back if it to do. Otherwise, I want to move it to completed. And we'll close the bracket there. And then in comma, the other field that I want to update is the completed on. And this one is just going to be an if statement. Again, var task.status.value equals completed. Then I'll have it equal to blank. Otherwise, today. Close the squiggly bracket, close the bracket, close the bracket. Right, so if the task is completed currently, then move it to do. If it's not completed, then move it to completed. And the date, if it's currently completed, then I'm clicking it. I'm gonna change it to blank. Otherwise, we're gonna set today's date. So here, so this item, well actually let's go back and close. We're gonna click on the subscribe button. Maybe I'll preview it like this. If we, right now it's to do, if I mark it complete, it's updating to completed. Now I can close this. There we go. And if we go to the tasks, you'll see that it does update, right? So it does have the date. And if we go back to that same list and we click the completed button again, it's going to update and remove the Yeah, I moved it to to-do and remove the date. Now, a bonus for this episode, I want to show you how we can utilize the bar charts. I find that they're rarely utilized. Let's see, like all these charts here, there's a column, line, pie, there's Power BI tiles as well. But I'll show you how we can utilize this column chart to display some of our completed tasks, right? So I'm just gonna insert oh, no, not there. Delete, delete. Okay, sorry. Yeah, well, I'll do it in a separate one here. I'm just gonna copy this my recent tasks container, and within that same container that houses both of them, I'm just gonna paste it in. And this is container 51_2, which means I need to, because it's gonna be at the very end, I need to update the container that houses all of them and update its width, or the height property actually, to this 51_2, right? Okay, there we go. So now the height is gonna adjust. What I wanna do is I'm gonna remove this button here, and I'm gonna change this to tasks completed. And actually, I'll copy these. Yeah, so the completed in the little under header, I'm gonna copy that. I'm just gonna delete all of this actually. And I'm going to paste these two in and move them up. So I'm gonna move this up, I'm gonna move this up, and I'm gonna remove the gap. Okay, so that should be good. So this completed, I'm gonna change this to my tasks completed. And this under header is gonna say, I guess, last 6 months. So I wanna see like sort of a monthly view of the progress that I'm making. Am I seeing a trend of like completing more tasks, I suppose, month over month? And so that's fine. I'm definitely going to delete this gallery here. And so in this container, I'm going to insert that chart, column chart. It doesn't like to, like it confuses things, so I can't really click. You're not actually clicking on what you think you're clicking when it's like this. So that's why I'm kind of doing it off screen. But maybe what I'll do, I'm just going to move this to the very beginning. And I'm going to change the height to one of the other ones. Yeah, so this one, 51_1. Okay, just temporarily while I work on this, so it's more visible on the screen. So yeah, the chart here, it comes in with the group, so it has like a legend, which I don't want. And I also don't want the title here, because we already made our own up here. But the column chart, that's fine. I'm gonna change its height to flexible height and minimum to 0. So that's gonna just bring it up, and I'm going to set its width to stretch, and minimum width will be 0. And it also has padding, which I'm just gonna remove. I'm gonna set it to 0. I'm gonna make the X angle, which is these labels here at the bottom, 60 right now. Maybe I'll make it 45 so it's less vertical. And the items gap, I'm gonna set to 50. Ooh, not 500, 50. There we go. So that's just gonna give some space in between each row or each bar. And I'm also gonna change the font. So I'm gonna do Lato Black, just so that it pops out a little bit more. And I'm gonna do a size font, maybe 12. And everything else should be good. Oh, the color. I do wanna change the color. So if we go to the advanced, you'll notice that there's a item color set. It has a few different colors. What I want to do, and it has to be within a table, but what I want to do is just change it to my theme dot primary. And so that'll look, yeah, a little bit nicer. It'll match the theme that I'm going for. Okay, and so the thing with this though, it's using a sample, right? A column chart sample. Obviously I don't want this data, I want some of my own data. What I'm gonna do is I need to pull all of my individual completed tasks, and I need to do this anytime that I come on this page. Because maybe I was on a different page on a task, and I clicked complete, and now there's more completed, so it needs to update once I get back on this page to view it. So the way I'm going to do this is go on the screen. So the screen has a setting called on visible. I'm going to create a collection and store this data every time I come on this page. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a clear collect, right? So if I already had a collection, it's going to clear it and just create a new one. And I'm just going to call it chart data, but yeah, you can call it whatever you like. And I'm going to do a for all loop because I want to do the last 6 months. I'm going to do a sequence, and it's going to be 6. So I'm going to be doing it for the 6 months. And then I'm going to do a with function here and squiggly brackets. And here I'm going to set up, let's do base month. So the base month is actually just going to be the first day of each particular month. So I'm going to do a date add, and I'm going to do a date value. And I'm also going to do text. So because I need to transform the particular date of today. And in double quotes here, I'm just going to close. In the double quotes, I'm just going to do the year dash month dash 1. So I'm going to hard code the 1. So I'm based on today's date, I'm going to get that particular year and month, and I'm just going to set it to the first day of that month. And I'm extracting the date value, right? Because I'm getting the date, I need it in a particular format, and then I need to convert this back into a date format. And now we deal with the date add function. So once we have that number, we need to do a minus, and then in bracket, we're going to do 6, which is how far back we're going. So we're going back 6 months, minus the value, which is based on the for all, it's going to be the sequence here. So if it's the first month, that value is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 minus a particular value. We're going to close that, and we're going to do time units, or time unit dot months. So this is how we're going to sort of scale back the months depending on the particular value. And we're going to do very similar. So I'm just going to copy this. We're going to do one more, which is going to capture the end of the month. So I'm going to do, I guess, next month. It's going to be the first of the next month. So all of this is the same, except we're going to be adding a +1 here. So it's going to be counting the next month after that. And so I'm going to close the squiggly bracket and add a comma. And then this is where in squiggly bracket, we can store our data. And we can name our columns. I'm going to just do label, right? So the label will be the actual labels that show up at the very bottom of our chart. So I'm going to do text, and I'm going to take the month, which is from the base month, and I'm going to just format this in MMM, which is going to be JAN. It's going to be the 3-letter sort of version of a particular month. Close that, and then we're going to do a value. So the value is going to be actually how many tasks in that particular month. So what we're going to do is count rows, and we're going to filter our tasks table. And I'm going to, because it's for the particular assignee, right? So the assignee who is on the task dot email has to equal current user dot mail. And I want the completed on date to be greater than or equals to the base month. And I also want the completed on date to be less than next month. And we're going to close the filter, close the count rows, close the squiggly bracket, close the bracket, close bracket, and close the bracket again. Okay, so now what we can do, just test this out. And I'm gonna just navigate away from this screen and then come back to it. So let's say go to tasks, go here. We can check our data and it's gonna be on the variables here, collections, chart data. We can view our table. So you can see for all the months, so going back 6 months from this month, which is April, we completed 3 in April, 1 in March, 1 in February, none in January, 1 in December, and none in November. So now we can use this chart data to actually populate this particular data. So what we're going to do, go to advanced, you'll see this items property. Let's change this items property to our chart data, which is our collection. And it already kind of did everything for us. It recognized the labels and it recognized the value. So this is behaving as expected. And so now what I can do is just take this and again, move it to the end, because I don't want it to be the first thing that's sort of showing up. I want it to be at the very end. But as these things go, we need the last container to be setting the height of the main container 50. So again, container 51 underscore 2. We're going to go back to the container that houses all of them, and we're going to go to the height and just make sure we update this again. So now if we preview, there we go. So we have our sort of summaries here. We have our recent tasks, recent projects. We scroll down. We now have the tasks completed over the last 6 months. And this works if we go to the phone version there. So it still formats quite nicely. And we can also go to the iPad horizontal, and it all dynamically adjusts. Thanks so much for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, and we'll see you in the next one.